Gypsy Rose Blanchard is a free woman, and she spent the weekend celebrating in New Orleans, while her trolls online spent the weekend harassing and bullying her, and wait till you see what they did. As you know, Gypsy spent the last 10 years in the prison system for what she and her ex, Nicholas Godejohn, did to her mother, Dee Dee Blanchard. Now, Dee Dee is suspected of having Munchausen by proxy, where she faked illnesses in Gypsy in order to receive money and attention. These things included cancer, as well as pretending Gypsy needed a wheelchair. Gypsy pled guilty and took a plea deal for 10 years in prison. She served 85% of that, so about 8 years, and she's been on parole ever since. On the day her parole was lifted, Gypsy broke her silence and posted on her social media accounts saying, "Justice was served and so was my time. My continued prayers go out to the Petrie family. I'm deeply remorseful for the pain and heartbreak my actions have caused them. I recognize that nothing I say can undo the trauma or bring Dee Dee back. But from the depths of my heart, I will continue to express my sincerest apologies to them. Now and always, Gypsy Blanchard." Gypsy, her boyfriend Ken, and some of her good friends ended up going to New Orleans for the weekend, and Gypsy ended up going out the first night with some of her friends. Gypsy also uploaded some pictures from the night, like this one saying, "Great night with my friends," and unfortunately, they did decide to go live during the evening as well, when some drinks and shots were had. People screen recorded the live and uploaded the videos, and it's Gypsy and her friends having a good time, having drinks, and of course, giving the middle finger to her haters. It appears Gypsy did regret the live the next morning, and she posted this. Gypsy was out again last night with her friends as well as Ken, and they went to a few locations, including this one, where Gypsy and Ken and her friends sang some karaoke, or attempted to. Now, at the same time Gypsy was out trying to celebrate her new freedom and her release from the prison system, her online trolls were hard at work raising money for this. This is a truck they rented, which played a video, and the video was all pictures of Gypsy and unfortunately of her family, and telling people that she was not fit for motherhood and not fit to be off parole. Now, at one point in the evening, Gypsy's picking up a friend and they end up spotting the truck. Gypsy is watching the video and she ends up seeing a picture of her and her boyfriend Ken with their newborn daughter Aurora on the side of this truck. It says "not fit for motherhood," and obviously Gypsy got very upset. The video scrolls through a number of things, including this caption saying, "Munchausen was a cover, Gypsy Rose is dangerous. Meet the real Gypsy Rose," and then there is a series of photos from the actual murder scene. They also added clips of when she was out celebrating and being on live on camera, giving the finger to the haters, saying, "Gypsy Rose Blanchard gets wasted first night off parole." Here's a look at the actual video.
Whose plan was it to kill your mother?
It was my plan.
That's right. That's right. Oh my God. I'm here today because Gypsy Rose mother-in-law. She's smug about it. She's making money off of it. Everything that comes out of her mouth is a lie, and I think it needs to stop.
A lot has been happening online since this truck debuted last night, including a lot of the trolls posting videos and pictures of this truck, laughing and writing comments like this, saying, "This is how we peacefully protest. The downfall of Gypsy Rose Blanchard has begun. Grab your popcorn and your truth. It's about to go down tonight." And that same creator actually posted a whole video claiming that this is their First Amendment rights to inform people and claiming that it's not bullying, writing and saying, "Hey, Gyp Media stands, this is what a peaceful protest under our First Amendment rights looks like. You can no longer silence the truth, and the state of Missouri is no longer responsible for protecting you from criminal charges. Gyp Media, go see a therapist."
I was aware of what our community had done. We decided we were going to put up flyers all over the downtown of the square, the French Quarter. We also hired a billboard, a movable mobile billboard, to drive around for 4 hours a night while Gypsy and her geriatric crew, Delulu crew, run amok.
The online trolls in their community have taken full credit for raising money and renting that truck, as well as hanging flyers around about Gypsy Rose. Now, yes, it is free speech, and she was released from prison, which is public record. But when you look up the Fourth Amendment and free speech, there are some considerations like these. Be respectful. When seeking or sharing information, be mindful of the privacy and sensitivities of the individual and their family. 2, avoid speculation. Do not make assumptions or spread rumors about the individual or their release. And 3, be accurate. Only share information that you have confirmed through official sources.
If you have a right to post your entire life inebriated and stalking and things and the fact that you are targeting younger audiences, then we absolutely have a right to stand up and say, not on our watch. And so I want to explain to you all who are calling this some form of bullying what a peaceful protest is, because that's what this is. It is our right under the U.S. Constitution to peacefully protest.
They feel because Gypsy is sharing updates about her life online that they have the right to do what they did. However, no, posting negative information about someone is not in itself considered protesting, which is what they're trying to say they're doing. Protest involves public demonstrations or expressions of dissent against a specific action, idea, or policy, often with a political motivation. While expressing negative opinions online can be a form of expression, it doesn't necessarily constitute a protest.
We have simply made awareness out there that she is down here. She is in your establishments, and as businesses, you have a right to refuse service to her. And we, as a people, decided we wanted to warn the community.
Now they're asking businesses to refuse service to Gypsy Rose Blanchard. For what? Because she's a convicted criminal who served her time and just finished parole? Pretty sure that's not legal either, but it's starting to look like this: social bullying. Now, normally you consider this with school-age kids or teenagers. However, we often see grown adults participating in this behavior, especially in online forums or within communities. These people tend to target timid, vulnerable individuals.
So there you have it, folks. Not harassment, not bullying, awareness, advocacy, and safety.
How is saying Gypsy Rose is not fit for motherhood advocating or bringing awareness to any of this situation? And how is this helping anything? Munchausen was a cover. So Gypsy Rose Blanchard was, I believe, 10 years old when her mother first took advantage of the Make-A-Wish and took her to Disney. So you're saying that a 10-year-old plotted and manipulated this to get a free trip. They love to bring up the fact that Gypsy Rose suffers from a microdeletion, and it is not a common microdeletion. It's kind of out of the ordinary, so she does not have the typical symptoms from this. They love to say, however, that everything her mother did to her was because of this, and it was all necessary, except for the leukemia, the cancer diagnosis, as well as making her be in a wheelchair. And they're trying to say that Gypsy came up with this, that she was part of all of this, even though she was just a child when all of this began. Let's stop for a minute and pretend we don't think this is harassment and bullying towards someone, and let's look at it as if it really is some form of protest. Now, typically, when you protest, you're doing it for a reason. You're doing it because you want a result for something. Now, according to them, they're being asked all the time, when will you stop? What is it you're looking to achieve in this? And this was the answer.
We are not trying to hurt Gypsy Rose Blanchard. She has been given her life sentence. You know, she got off, she did her time, all the things that you want to say. But the public has a right to say, that's fine. We just want to make sure everybody knows that you're dangerous because the law system got this wrong. And we need to make sure that we hold you accountable. And we will continue to do so until they've asked us when we'll stop. This is when I'll stop. When Munchausen by proxy is no longer labeled to a woman who was never labeled with Munchausen by proxy. And number 2, when this young lady who freaking went and did this to her mother, she brutally slayed her mother, does not identify as a schmurderer and thinks that she is going to move on with her life, bashing and lying about her mother. She won't even call her mom.
That, first of all, her pointing out that Gypsy doesn't refer to Dee Dee as her mom, there's a really good reason for that. And if you have taken any psych courses, you would definitely know this. Abuse victims may stop calling their parents mom and dad as a way to distance themselves emotionally and psychologically from the abuse and to redefine the relationship or their identity in relation to their parents. And as for wanting people to stop referring to Dee Dee Blanchard as having Munchausen by proxy, that's not going to happen. She was suspected of having this over 10 years ago when they went to court. And that is based on her own family's testimony as to what Gypsy had to live through, as well as medical documents, legal documents, police investigation, etc. In 2015, the county prosecutor, Dan Patterson, was quoted as saying, "This is one of the most extraordinary and unusual cases we have seen." He recalls that the first time he saw her, that she was out of breath just walking 75 yards from the elevator. He said that she was malnourished and physically frail. He said, "I can honestly say I've rarely had a client who looks exceedingly better after doing a fairly long prison sentence." Prison is generally not a place where you become happy and healthy. And I say that because to me, that's kind of the evidence to the rest of the world as to just how bad what Gypsy was going through really was. Gypsy was fortunate enough to rebuild her relationship with her father and stepmother while she was in prison. And upon her release, they have stepped up and supported her every step of the way. Well, this community of trolls had a message for Gypsy's father.
And sir, you and your wife and everyone else that continues to enable her then and now are the problem. We the people have heard and said, you have said enough. We are done.
But then again, that shouldn't surprise anyone because one of the things online bullies like to do is have control. They like to strong arm people into siding with them or making decisions in their favor. They want everything to be their way or the highway, and if something doesn't go that way, you'll instantly see that bully come out to play. You'll find this individual always bad-mouthing others or spreading rumors. Adult bullies overreact and are extremely dramatic, especially if they feel slighted. And again, they're trying to say that this was a protest and not harassment or bullying. But again, protesting is a form of collective action with specific goals and objectives, which it's very evident they don't have. Posting negative information is a form of expression that may or may not be part of a protest. The key difference lies in the intention and collective nature of the action. Now let's get into what's happening with the owner of this truck company. So this is Louisiana Mobile Billboards. Now, this is a company worldwide in the United States, and they franchise out to other people, like the woman who owns the franchise in Louisiana who rented this truck to the community of trolls. Earlier today, Ken, Gypsy's boyfriend, posted this to his stories. Now, this is a response letter that the trucking company was sending to people that were messaging them last night about their concern for the hate and harassment against Gypsy. He posted it saying, LOL, #losers. So they initially wrote saying, "Thank you for reaching out, expressing your concerns. We hear you and want to sincerely apologize for the pain and anger this campaign has caused." Now, they went on to say that they don't endorse what is on their trucks and what is being shown. And they said, "We understand that this particular message was deeply offensive and triggering to many, especially survivors of abuse. Please know that we have made the decision to withdraw from this campaign immediately. We do not want our platform associated with messaging that could harm, defame, or invalidate someone's lived experience, especially involving such sensitive subject matter. We're taking this situation seriously and are reevaluating our internal policies moving forward. We truly regret that this has caused harm and appreciate you holding us accountable." Another person shared a texting response. It's the same message, but the number at the top is from the truck company, and it shows it was sent at 10:55 p.m. last night. And one of the trolls from this community that helped pay for the truck and organize it posted this saying, "No campaign was ended. The truck was booked from 4 till 10. It 100% fulfilled its contract. Thank you, Louisiana Mobile Signs. Now everybody go give them a 5-star review." Now, I do believe this to be true. I'm sure that they had it booked for a certain amount of time. Now, since this is all played out today, it looks like the billboard company has changed their tune somewhat. The letter is pretty identical to the one they were sending out last night, but they've changed it to say that it's important to clarify that our company, as a media and advertising platform, does not create or endorse the content, talks about them providing a service, but then they go on to say that we sympathize with those who felt upset or offended, but they cannot be selective or censor their ads based on viewpoints because of the right to be heard without bias or favoritism. This is being shared by that community of trolls, suggesting that Ken had altered his letter, which his letter came out last night at around 11 p.m. This letter was not posted on the Billboard's page until just this afternoon. So it does look like both are authentic. Unfortunately for this Billboard company, the owner of the franchise in Louisiana has now created a TikTok account where she has been uploading some content. She uploaded a screenshot of a message she received from someone on her account and wrote and said, "I've been told not to let messages like these disrupt our peace of mind. Hi everyone, thank you so much for the outpouring of support. This is the official TikTok for Louisiana mobile billboards. While you may not see it on the surface, we've been receiving a wave of calls, texts, emails, and voicemails and DMs since 5:30 p.m. yesterday, and it's still coming in. This is just one example." One of the online trolls was doing a live tonight and explained what exactly is going on in this situation, and it's not good. Apparently, this troll was in contact with the woman who owns this part of the mobile bulletin board company in Louisiana, and the woman was telling the troll that she's now lost business over this. She said she's gotten multiple, as you can see, phone calls, DMs, etc., and that people are actually canceling her services. She said that she is already losing money because of allowing these trolls to put up that hateful billboard on her vehicle. Now the trolls are saying that they're going to have some sort of GoFundMe for this woman and try and raise money because they feel bad now that she's losing business because of their hateful campaign. They're also trying to make up for what they've done to this woman's company and the company in general by asking all of their followers to go to their website to put in a Google review, a positive review, because other people who saw this hateful truck in the ads are going and posting negative reviews. I think it's also important to stop for a minute and take a note of this as well. So a lot of the online trolls have issue with this man. This is Gypsy's ex, Nicholas Godejohn, who was involved in the killing of Gypsy's mother with her. Now, he is in prison currently for the rest of his life without parole, and a lot of people are saying that he is this mentally challenged, severely disabled man who Gypsy manipulated to end up in prison. Now, in their defense, a lot of this talk comes from his trial. So at his trial, he had his side hire an expert who claimed that he was basically severely disabled and that they should not charge him with murder 1 and should charge him with murder 2, which would give him less jail time. So his defense team hired a man named Kent Franks, who's a psychologist. He did assessments on Nick and testified in court. Also, while I'm here, it's important to note this as well. The Blanchard's relatives believe Dee Dee Blanchard required her daughter to act as if she was sick and pretend to be younger than she is, so they could get sympathy and aid from charities and social service agencies. People who knew them thought Gypsy couldn't walk and possibly was fatally ill. This came right from Dee Dee's family. Okay, back to the psychologist. So Frank said that Nicholas is on the autism spectrum and spent most of his time on the internet and playing video games. He said that he described him as more of a child than an adult, said his IQ was 82, and he functioned at the level of a 10 or 11-year-old. If you understand IQ scores, then you will understand that that's not exactly correct. The average individual has an IQ score anywhere between 70 and 130, with 100 being at the top of a bell curve. So at the top of the bell is 100, going down one side would be getting higher, and you would be getting a higher average intelligence. Going down the other side, you'd be getting a lower average intelligence. So this chart kind of helps out a little bit. So if you have a score of 82, like they said Nicholas did, it scores in here between 80 and 89, which indicates dullness or lower average. So Nick, because the average is 100, was on this side of the bell curve, but it's still an average score. It's just low average. Here's another site saying that the average scores between 90 and 109, and that scores 80 to 89, again, are considered low average. Now, some people even claim that Nicholas was going to have to receive benefits for the rest of his life to help care for himself. This is also not true. So if you go to any law site and look into the law around benefits, this is what you will see. Applicants who are receiving benefits based solely on an intellectual disorder must have an impairment that occurred before age 22 and a full-scale IQ score of 70 or below. As for the autism disorder, Nick's father in an interview actually claimed that he was diagnosed in elementary school, which is quite common. However, Nick was also re-diagnosed or reassessed during court by two sides, the defense and the prosecution. So the defense again had Franks hired, and he met with Nick twice in December of 2015 and July of 2016 for about 11 hours in total, he said. And he ends up diagnosing Nick on the autism spectrum as a level 2, which is requiring substantial support with accompanying intellectual impairment. Prosecution, of course, disagreed with this, and their own expert diagnosed Nick as a level 1 and said that he actually scored particularly well in a judgment test that was administered. Now, personally, I don't put much stock in either of those. It's extremely hard to diagnose autism, especially if you've only met with someone a couple times. If you look up autism, it specifically says that levels of autism are not determined by a single number score, but a comprehensive assessment that has to do with social communication, repetitive behavior, and there are standardized assessments used, but the final determination of the level of support needed is basically based on clinical judgment and a comprehensive evaluation, not just a couple visits. And then just to show you the difference, so prosecution said he was a level 1, which is minimal support. These are all the bullets that you can find for what he would have needed. And a level 2 with substantial support, and here's what that would include. The defense's expert Franks actually did do one of these assessment scores on him and said that he scored a 26. But if you look that up, 26 is actually just on the line of autistic. It's consistent with autism, but 37 and above is when it's pronounced. Bottom line is, yes, Nick had autism and he was low average intelligence, but he was not this mentally disabled person that the online trolls make him out to be. Despite all of the trolling, bullying, online hate that's been happening, Gypsy is still uploading photos like this one, commenting saying, "Still shining." She also uploaded a statement saying, "This weekend I celebrated a huge milestone, officially being off parole. After years of restrictions and learning to rebuild my life, I finally had the chance to sow my wild oats, as they say, and experience a little of the freedom I missed out on in my 20s. New Orleans, the French Quarter, a classic night out with friends. It was loud, it was wild, it was a little messy, and it was exactly what I needed. Being able to speak freely, laugh loudly, and just be in the moment without looking over my shoulder was liberating in every way." And then she did address the online trolling, saying everyone wants to see people move forward. Despite online trolls doing their best to ruin the weekend from behind a screen and beyond, they couldn't take away the joy we felt. But I won't ignore how serious this issue is. Cyberbullying is dangerously widespread, and when hate spills over into real-world harassment, it becomes more than just online drama. It becomes a threat to safety. That is not okay. No one should have to fear living their life because others can't separate the internet from reality. This weekend wasn't just a party. It was a symbol of freedom, growth, and reclaiming life on my terms. I lived a moment I had been denied for far too long. And yes, I was a little wild and I'm proud of it. Bucket list, French Quarter night out, complete. Here's to more milestones, more healing, and no apologies for living. And then she does some hashtags here saying freedom feels good, no more parole, cyberbullying awareness, new beginnings, and French Quarter fun. Gypsy also shared this picture, which has the online trolls very upset. She posted this saying, "Wonderful weekend with friends in NOLA." And you may recognize this person right here. This is not a typical friend of Gypsy Rose Blanchard. In fact, I would have called her an enemy. Now, she has made posts like this for a long time now, calling out Gypsy Rose and going after her. The two of them have had a feud online and in the police station because she's actually living in the same community as Gypsy. However, people change and sometimes come to their senses. Gypsy posted this to her stories tonight. It says, "Please go watch Ivory Rose Gross Wild's new video on YouTube. We support you for you, #redemption, #forgiveness." The title of her new video is called "Addressing What is Going On with Me and Why I'm Pulling Away from Bullying Content." This is fantastic. This woman has been in this community of online trolls for quite some time, and she's realizing now what she was doing. It was bullying. No matter what your thoughts are on the Gypsy Rose Blanchard situation, her sentencing, what she did to her mom, what she's posting online, it is so important not to get sucked up into this online cyberbullying troll community that's happening. Instead, try one of these things. Become a bystander, or better yet, become an upstander and stand up to what's happening online and make a difference. People online are real people, including Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Justice was served whether we like it or not. She served her time, she did her parole, and she's trying to move on in her life with a new boyfriend, a baby, and her family. And hopefully we'll see more people do this, realize what their content was all about, and make a change. Gypsy Rose Blanchard is a free woman, and she spent the weekend celebrating a